Hey, what's happening, everybody? Big weekend up in Clemson. Welcome in Monday Live. My name's Jason Priester, allclemsontigers.com. Getting it started a little later tonight. Football practice. Had football practice and interviews after practice today, so we had to kick it back an hour. Appreciate everybody that adjusted their schedule with me. Before we get started, want to remind everybody, if you've not hit that subscribe button, please do so. Hit that like button too. We would greatly appreciate it. Lot to dive into here tonight. There was a lot that went on this weekend. Arguably one of the biggest weekends in Clemson history, and it's not even football season. Imagine that. You know, a week ago, we're talking about Clemson limping into the NCAA tournament, and here we are today. They have just stormed into the Sweet 16. 4 of the 16 teams remaining are ACC teams. Imagine that. After we've heard all season how down the ACC is, and ironically enough, Clemson eliminates a Big 12 team, arguably one of the better teams in the Big 12, to get to the Sweet 16. The conference that Brownell mentioned many times when it came to leagues doing things to kind of manipulate their net rankings and the way they schedule non-conference. So a little bit of irony there. Then on the baseball diamond, man, it's really hard to put into words what happened over the weekend. I don't know that I've ever seen anything like it. I was at all 3 games. And if you were there Saturday in that game too and left early, that's a shame, man, because you missed something epic. It was one of the greatest things I've ever witnessed. Then they turned around and did it again on Sunday. And oddly enough, when they got down big Sunday, guess what? Nobody left. It was like the crowd was just expecting the comeback to happen again. And sure enough, they did it, man. Just you can't say enough about Blake Wright. That guy's just absolutely raking. ACC Player of the Week, D1 Baseball's Player of the Week nationally. 2 grand slams over the weekend. He had a big 3-run homer in game 1. Just unreal what he's doing at the plate. I think he's 4th in the country in home runs right now. He's had like 21 RBIs in the past week. Just red hot. There's just not a lot of weaknesses in that lineup, 1 through 9. And you can, we've talked about it before. They've got some depth, man. You could sub some guys in and out, and there's not a lot of drop-off. A little bit of bad news does come out of the weekend, though. Tristan Smith's going to miss, at least next week, probably the weekend after that, too, if I had to guess, dealing with a ankle. He's in a walking boot. It will be interesting to see what they do with the rotation this weekend. I fully expect Ethan Darden to slide into the rotation. We'll see if it stays the way it has been and Darden just slide into Smith's spot. Gordon, once again, on Saturday did not last very long. He just doesn't seem like he's there yet. He's not the guy that he was last year. Connaught got roughed up a little bit on Sunday. Wouldn't worry about him too much, but with Smith out, you've got to do something to address your starting rotation at least over the next couple of weekends. And fortunately for Clemson, you go on the road to Miami this weekend, and then the weekend after that, you welcome Notre Dame to town. So it's not like you're playing these highly rated teams. It's manageable. But we'll see what Eric Backus decides to do. Did tell me last night that the plan was still to start Billy Barlow tomorrow. So if that does indeed play out that way, he would obviously not be a candidate to start this weekend. So we can take this thing wherever you want to go, man. It's just there's a lot of different ways we can go, man. We can talk basketball, we can talk baseball, whatever. I'll let you guys roll with it, and we can go from there. Is this the best weekend ever in Clemson sports? You can make that case. Florida State was unbeaten coming in. They were ranked 12th in the country. And when I use baseball rankings, I'm always going to use D1 baseball. So if you hear me reference a poll, it's D1 baseball's poll. They were ranked 12th in the country, if I'm remembering right, coming into the weekend. And man, their starting pitching is legit. That lineup is legit, man. I forgot they mashed this weekend. I forgot how many home runs they hit, but there was a few times there it looked like Clemson was throwing batting practice to those guys because it was just balls are flying out of the park. But the Tigers absolutely tattooed their bullpen, just obliterated it. And, they've got some issues out there in that pen that they've got to get straightened out the rest of the way. But just I don't know that there's ever been two back-to-back comebacks like that. And don't forget, in game one, Clemson was down 4-0 in that game before they ever recorded a first out. Darden had some tough luck in that first inning, an infield single, then he walks a guy, then a error on another infield single leads to the bases loaded, and bam, grand slam. It's 4-0 before you even got the first out. And Darden really settles in after that. It holds them scoreless over the next 5 1/3 innings. Clemson comes back and run rules those guys 15-5. That was impressive in and of itself. And then you come back from 8-1 down in the ninth inning in game two, and then the even bigger comeback on yesterday. Just you cannot say enough about the mental makeup of that baseball team, and you could tell they devote a lot of time to the mental side of things, and it shows on the field. But even bigger was what the basketball team did. Brad Brownell's got a lot of haters inside the Clemson fan base, and it's time to give that guy his due. Clemson's made 5 Sweet 16 appearances ever. He's responsible for 2 of them, both in the last 6 years. There was some exceptional X's and O's and game plans, or let's say X's and O's coaching going on in these two tournament games. The game plans were phenomenal. They took New Mexico out of their they took New Mexico out of what they wanted to do early, frustrated them, never allowed them to get settled, did the same thing to Baylor. And then with P.J. Hall in foul trouble in both games, it forces Brownell to kind of mix and match and get a little unconventional at times. And he pushed the right button every time. I thought it was just masterful plans in both games. People that think that guy can't coach, I don't know what to say. He's pretty regarded as an X's and O's guy, particularly on the defensive end. I thought the defense was phenomenal. Even Joe Girard played a little defense this weekend. Chase was outstanding. Jack Clark just kept doing what he's been doing. Ian Shefflin, same thing. If you can get P.J. Hall to start playing a little smarter and keep him out of early foul trouble, you might have a shot against Arizona. I mean, they got the kind of size Clemson struggled with at times. You at least go in that thing with a puncher's chance, and they're already in L.A., man. They didn't get back to Clemson till, I don't know, it was supposed to be 2:30, 3 o'clock this morning. They turned right around and went to L.A. today. So they're already there. But back to your point, yeah, I mean, it might be in my memory, yeah. I mean, it's hard to remember a better weekend than this one if you're a Clemson fan. And it's hard to believe you're saying that when it's not even football season. It's just so historical what the basketball team's doing right now because they've just not really done it before. This is the 3rd time since 1990 they've been to the Sweet 16 and only the 5th time ever. They've only ever been to the Elite 8 once. So if you could get one more win, that would really be historical. So, yeah, I think it was an historical weekend. Here's one right here. Brownell says he gets some credit from him. He coached his ass off this weekend. I would 100% agree with that, man. I thought he showed his coaching chops off this weekend. 100%, absolutely. I think he gets a little too much flack at times when they lose and not enough credit at times when they win. but he pushed all the right buttons this weekend, and we'll see if they have another one left in them Thursday against Arizona. That's going to be Arizona's going to be a tough out. They're one of the best teams in the country, but Clemson's shown that they can play with those kind of teams. Man, they beat North Carolina. They should have beaten Duke. All but did beat Duke if it weren't for probably the officials. Beat Alabama. So it's not like you've not seen this team compete on that level. I'm kind of looking forward to that matchup and seeing what kind of game plan Brownell puts together for Love and those guys. Yes, the baseball comebacks were nothing short of amazing. Sitting there Saturday and you don't even not even really giving it any thought of them making a comeback. We're sitting there in the ninth inning after Florida State. I think Florida State was hitting in the ninth inning, and turn around and look at one of the guys back there, and he's one of the guys on the support staff, and he's got his rally cap on. They got a hat turned around backwards, and I think he told me they've only ever done that twice up there like that, and both times Clemson made comebacks in the ninth inning, and that was the second time Saturday. But yeah, it was hard to believe. We're sitting there yesterday, and they're down big again. It was 11-3, and my boss was there with me, and Zach's there, and he's writing the game, and I'm saying, man, you better don't start writing that thing. Because it looked like Clemson was fixing to get run ruled. I think it was 11-2, and after the sixth inning, one more run in the top of the seventh, and Florida State could have run ruled them. But it didn't work out that way, and I think Zach already had it written out that Seminoles run ruled Clemson 12-2. But yeah, it's hard to really describe what you witnessed this weekend, man. And with the basketball team being in Memphis, there wasn't a whole lot of media there. Most of the guys are in Memphis or were in Memphis this weekend. And so they while they got to witness something special, they also missed something special too, just like I missed what happened in Memphis. Do I think that SEC basketball is overrated? I think ACC basketball has been vastly underrated this year. Vastly underrated. I think Brad Brownell and some of the other coaches that have pointed it out have been on to something when they talk about the Big 12 and how they have figured out a loophole in the net rankings and the way they schedule out a conference. They're able to manipulate those net rankings and make the conference looks stronger on paper than maybe it actually is. They schedule all these weak teams because if you go and look at the Big 12's non-conference strength of schedule, I remember I did it earlier in the year, and I remember it was all but Baylor and Kansas had it. It was pathetic out of conference strength of schedules, and they go and beat the brakes off of those teams, and it inflates their offensive efficiency and inflates their defensive efficiency, which leads to their net ranking getting inflated. And when they all do that, once they get into the conference schedule, then they're all beating up on each other, and it looks like the best teams in the country are beating up on each other. But a lot of that's got to do to the fact that they inflated those net rankings. I think the SEC is much improved in basketball as opposed to what it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They have really made an effort to improve their standing in basketball, on the national landscape. So I think they've made great strides there. Were they a little overrated this year? Probably. But I also think a lot of that's got to do with – I'm not a big conspiracy guy, but I do think there is there's a narrative being pushed by certain national media guys that's kind of out there. The point is to kind of make the ACC look weak. You want to prop up, the Big Ten and the SEC in football, and then some of these other leagues in basketball, and make the ACC maybe not look as strong as it as it really is. I think that's by design. But to your point, yeah, I think the SEC was a little overrated this year. I think the tournament results have bore that out, but at the same time, I do think they've made great strides in recent years. I think what South Carolina did this year with Lamont Harris was nothing short of remarkable. If I remember right, that team might have been picked to finish dead last in the SEC or next to last. That run they ran on, that was impressive. If I had a vote, he's getting my vote for Coach of the Year. That was a heck of a job he did there, just to turn around and lose Meechie Johnson today, who's hitting the portal and looks like he's headed back to Ohio State. But, I think Alabama's really good. I've watched them a couple of times this year. But, yeah, in general, I think the SEC was a little overrated this year. Listen to basketball talking heads all day. All of them are giving Clemson zero chance to beat Arizona. I guess we might as well not play the game. Arizona is going to be a tough out, man. I don't think that's the greatest matchup for Clemson. I wouldn't say they've got a 0% chance to win. But again, I think there's some effort being made to talk down some of the ACC teams and those kind of things. But Arizona's got the kind of size that Clemson struggled with in the past. That's a little concerning, but that their guards shoot the ball really well. That's something Clemson struggled with at times this season. But they have been really good defensively in these two games so far. It looked like, the early exit from the ACC tournament might have actually done them some good. And, that 9 days of rest or whatever it was looks like it really benefited them. They look extremely fresh Thursday. They look like they got fresh legs. I know P.J. Hall finally returned to practice right before the Boston College game. And as far as I know, he's been back at practice ever since. So that's an added bonus. It gives you, Ian Shefflin was playing banged up down the stretch. He had just returned to practice not too much longer before PJ did. Because Shefflin was missing practice there for a stretch too. Both of them were. It looked like they had some fresh legs, and one advantage Arizona's going to have is they're used to that living in Pacific time zone. Clemson's going to have to get used to that time difference, or however you want to say it. And I think that's probably a big part of why they left today, so they could go ahead and get acclimated to it. But it'll be interesting to see how well Clemson can defend this Arizona team. They've been playing lights out on the defensive end, and they'll need that kind of effort again. What's up with Basie? I don't have the answer for that. I can just give you. I can just speculate. I thought Clemson would be more aggressive on the bases this year than they have been, especially after last season. But they haven't. They haven't been very aggressive at all. But I think they haven't had to. They've not really had a whole lot of problems, scoring runs. And I think if you don't have to be aggressive, you don't need to be aggressive. I kind of think maybe that's playing a factor here. I did ask Eric Bakich about that back earlier in the season. Matter of fact, it might have been the first week. I think I might have asked him about it twice, but I know that after the first weekend, he was talking about the catcher for Xavier having a strong arm, and they didn't feel like they needed to test it. And I can't remember what he said the second time, but because I remember asking him something. There was one game where they stole a few bases, but in general, no, they've not been as aggressive as I thought they would have been, and maybe that's just due to the fact that they don't feel like they need to be. They don't feel like they need to push the envelope. They're scoring plenty of runs on. No need to create any extra outs on the bases that aren't needed, if that makes sense. That would be my guess, anyways. When they were at their most aggressive, when they were being the most aggressive last season, it was kind of in the first half of the season before they really turned it around. They were really aggressive on the base paths when they were still struggling to find an identity and before they had tweaked the rotation and went on that run. I mean, they stayed aggressive after that too, but I don't think they were quite as aggressive over the second half as they were in the first half. But there's not a weak spot in that lineup, man. They are, they just put together quality at bat after quality at bat. They will work. They'll work walks. There's not a batter in that lineup right now who's swinging at a whole lot of bad pitches. It's all about the team, and when you're getting those kind of quality at bats, I don't know that you need to be all that aggressive. So I think that's playing a part in this thing. Football have any players make it back from injury? We got Antonio and Avion Terrell and Josh Sapp today. They're not going to talk anything specifically about injuries, but I know Avion was hurt before spring break, and he's back. So his ankle was still a little taped up, but he said he's good to go. But other than that, we might not hear about that till Wednesday. We're supposed to get Garrett Riley and Wes Goodwin on Wednesday after the scrimmage. Gerard's kiss it made me. Yeah. Kudos to him, man. I think it was something that needed to be said. Brad Brownell has taken a lot of flack over the years. Some of it earned, some of it not so much. Again, I think he takes a lot of flack when they lose, and he gets no credit when they win. He's done something this year that's just not been – he's got the most NCAA tournament wins ever at Clemson. And I get it, man. He's been to 4 tournaments in 14 years. I get it. I understand all that. But again, like I talked about last week, man, if we're gonna really dive into that, let's also talk about how bad the facilities were over the first half of his tenure and how they didn't even have a home for more than a year, and there was nothing to recruit with. And let's look at the trajectory the program's been on since they got into those facilities. There's a lot more. There's a lot more meat on the bone once they did the upgrades and stuff. But yeah, I was glad to see somebody say it because again, there's been a lot of just flat out hatred spewed at Brownell the past few weeks. Some of it from anonymous Twitter accounts. It's just those guys see that thing, man, and they see that stuff. They know what's out there. And while there's a lot of people inside the fan base that might think Brownell can't coach and this, that, or whatever, most of those players that come through there, they would strongly disagree. They love that guy, man. You just go and look at PJ Hall's interview from last night. He's sitting there in tears, man. And part of that is, him feeling like they kind of vindicated Brownell in a way. Part of this has been playing for him too. But yeah, I thought that comment was awesome. "100% agree. I 100% agree. I thought Brownell absolutely outcoached Drew yesterday, and he's considered one of the best coaches in the country. And I know they tried to give it away at the end and hung on and won, but I thought they got a little sloppy at the end and started playing. They started to press a little bit and made a couple of boneheaded mistakes, but they overcame them, man. You got a guy like R.J. Godfrey goes to the line and drains 2 free throws, a 58% free throw shooter. And guess why he drains them? Because several weeks ago, at some point back during the season, Brownell told one of his assistants to stick with RJ and make sure he's working on his free throws. And he has been ever since. And that paid off yesterday. It's just the people that think this guy can't coach, man, it kills me. What's up with the softball team? They seem off this season. Yeah, I can't really answer that. Full disclosure, I've watched very little softball. I'm not nearly as plugged in over there as I am, let's say, for baseball or whatever, because I'm always covering the baseball team, and it's hard to watch both. So just on the outside looking in, it sounds like they're struggling, coming up with the clutch hits when runners are on base. But other than that, I can't offer a lot of insight in that because I just don't cover it that much, and I'm not very plugged in over there. Brownell needs an extension and pay increase. I would go out on a limb and venture to guess that an extension is coming. I think he's only got a couple years left on his deal, and you would, at the very least, he needs to be extended for recruiting purposes. But I would assume that's probably going to come with some kind of pay bump too after this year. I don't think it'll be some ginormous pay bump or anything. He's already got a pretty good deal. His salary's already, he makes pretty good money already. So it is definitely time to talk about an extension. Even if they didn't make it to the Sweet 16, you probably got to start having those discussions because you're getting down towards the end now, and you don't want to be recruiting guys and them saying, well, hey, you've only got 1 year left on your deal, 2 years left on your deal, 3 years left on your deal. Are you even going to be here when I get done, So that was something that needs to be addressed anyways. But is that the biggest comeback in Clemson baseball history with 8 at the bottom of the ninth? It's not the biggest comeback in Clemson history, but it might. I mean, they've come back from bigger deficits. It might have been the biggest one at home in the bottom of the ninth. So I can't say with 100% certainty, but it's not the biggest deficit they've ever overcome. There was one. One of y'all helped me out here. I think there was a big one. Golly, I can't remember now. I'm telling you, my memory's getting terrible, but they've had bigger ones. They've come back from bigger deficits than 8 runs. Heck, they come back from down 9 runs on Sunday, but it might have been the biggest one in the bottom of the ninth at home. Yeah, PJ needs to play smarter, man. He's got to learn that. Matter of fact, I think I said it last week or the week before last. You got to learn to. Sometimes you can lose a battle or two along the way as long as you win the war. You're not going to win every single battle. And with PJ, I don't think he gets the benefit of the doubt some of the other big guys in the ACC get, like Baycott at North Carolina, for example, or Filipowski at Duke. Man, they get calls every time they get sneezed on. PJ doesn't get that benefit of the doubt. So he's got to be a little bit more careful, a little bit smarter. He has made some silly fouls this year. You could tell Brownell was pretty frustrated with him late in that game yesterday, man, because there was just a couple of those fouls he committed yesterday was senseless. That last one, there was no sense to run through that guy like that. There was just no reason to do it. It's just like he wants to compete. He's such a competitor that sometimes it kind of takes over and overrides the basketball IQ part sometimes. Let's put it that way. But he needs to be on the floor. Thursday against Arizona. They're going to need him, man. He can't spend over half the game sitting on the bench in foul trouble, period. As good as RJ's been off the bench, and he's been good. He's not been, he's not like he's pumping in 15 points a game, but he's been good on the defensive end. He's been good on the boards. They need PJ. They need PJ. Arizona's just got too much size. Clemson basketball team has really surprised me with the effort and determination in the tournament. I can't say I'm not surprised because I've seen them do it already this year. I saw them do it in the non-conference when they went 11-1. They beat some good teams during that stretch. Alabama being one, TCU being one, another Big 12 team, a couple more tournament teams in there, and then they had a couple of slides once they got into conference play. I can't remember. They had one losing streak. I forgot how long it was. And then they bounced back and went on a streak where they won like 5 of 6 or something like that, where they were playing really good basketball. And then they kind of didn't play well down the stretch. And I think that they lost 3 or 4 coming into the tournament, which I thought they played really well against Wake Forest. I thought they just got beat. Sometimes you can play well and get beat. I thought that's what happened against Wake Forest. Then they come out, they just laid an egg against Boston College. It was just downright ugly. They just didn't have it that night for whatever reason. And sometimes that can happen too. I think that I don't recall another effort like that all season long. It just happened to come at an inopportune time. But I also think it ended up being a blessing in disguise because I think the rest just helped tremendously. I think, again, I thought they looked like they had fresh legs and they looked energized, re-energized and refreshed. And so maybe getting bounced out early in the ACC tournament was, again, a blessing in disguise. But, I kind of wondered which team would show up, but I wasn't going to be surprised if they showed up, if the good Clemson team showed up, because I've seen it too many times this year. I know they got it in them, and for me, it's never been about effort, except for maybe that Boston College game. Outside of that, even when they got beat, man, they might not have been playing their best, but they brought the effort every night. Basketball is best when PJ and Chase don't settle on the 3 when they play inside out. They are really good. Chase is at his best when he is being aggressive and driving and cutting and creating off the dribble and not just hanging around on the perimeter, settling for the 3. I thought he's done a lot more of that over the back half of the season. He went through a stretch there once they got into ACC play where I thought he was settling for far too many 3-point shots. PJ, he can hit them from out there. There's a fine line when it comes to him taking too many 3-pointers. You want him to take some because you want it to soften up the defense in there. But yeah, they need to play inside out. Absolutely. When you got guys like PJ and Shefflin and heck, even RJ when he's in there, he can play. He can work in the post too. You want to take advantage of that. So, do you think Clemson makes it to the Final Four? I wouldn't bet on it because you just look at who's left. I don't think it's the greatest match. I don't think Arizona's the best matchup for them. They're going to be a tough out. I think they match up really well with Clemson, and Clemson doesn't quite match up so well with them. If they bring it on the defensive end the way they have been, though, I give them a puncher's chance. And we already know they can beat North Carolina. We've seen it. If that's where they were to get in the Elite Eight, if they were to beat Arizona. So we know they can beat them. If they can get by Arizona, all bets are off, man. I think they can make it. But it's going to be tough to get by Arizona. Think tomorrow's baseball game goes on as scheduled. As far as I know, why wouldn't it? Yeah, seems like the Big East got screwed by the manipulation going on too. SEC benefited, the ACC and the Big East make it. The SEC look like high school this season. Agreed. The Big East was kind of in the same boat as the ACC, no doubt about it. How is recruiting going? I know the Trojans got a lot of commitments this weekend. Yeah, Isaiah Gibson committed to USC over the weekend. I actually got an email right before the show started. I am sick and disgusted that Brent Clatterboy, Clemson lean, is going to Virginia Tech. I think Clemson's football recruiting is overrated. They seem to have great visits but show no results. I think they will get Strong, Waldrop, Hazenhood, or Buchanan, all offensive linemen. Please comment. I don't know that I would have ever called Brett Clatterball a strong Clemson lean. I think he came in and had a good couple of visits, but I don't know that I'd ever called him a strong Clemson lean. The part about Clemson's recruiting being overrated and having great visits but show no results, they got a top 5 class at the moment. I don't really know what to say to that. I thought Dabo made some really good moves to address what was a weakness in the last class, which was offensive line recruiting and getting Matt Luke in here, and you are in it with a bunch of guys. I guess he's talking about when he says, I don't think they will get Strong. I guess he's talking about Cam Strong, the in-state linebacker. I feel pretty good about their chances to get him if they decide to go that route. Waldrop, Hazenhood, or Buchanan. They're not going to get Hazenhood, or however you say his last name. He's got an offer. You talk about they have great visits but serve no results. When's the last time he's been there? Waldrop, I like their chances with him. Is it a lock? Absolutely not. He lives so far away, he can't get here during the spring, but he's going to be back for the official visit weekend. I talk to him off and on sometime. Clemson's definitely in it. Buchanan, I'd probably have him leaning towards Florida State at the moment. Clemson's already got 2 really good offensive linemen locked up. Probably going to take 2 more. And you're absolutely in it for the top guy in the class, in David Sanders, or the top guy in the class, in my opinion, anyways. So I don't know where the part about shows no results comes from. I guess we're watching 2 different things. I don't know. It's hard for me to be very critical of a recruiting class that last time I looked was ranked number 3 in the country. Zaire Addison's another offensive lineman Clemson's been recruiting. Last I talked, I'll take that back. One time he was supposed to visit on, I think it was March the 9th. No, March the 11th, right after the junior day. And, he had told me he was coming for that, and then he was planning to come back for the big official visit weekend. Then all of a sudden, he doesn't come that day. He told me it was because of a family matter. And right after that, he releases a top 12. Clemson's not even in it. He's out here making trips to the West Coast, but he couldn't get to Clemson. That kind of tells you that recruitment's going in a different direction, if you catch my drift. Some guys just have different things they're looking for. And sometimes those things change while you are recruiting that guy. A guy's value might change from over a span of a couple of months. Addison just went and killed it at one of these camps he worked out at recently, and that can change the complexion of things in a hurry. So, but again, it's hard for me to say I see no results when the class is ranked number 3 in the country, man. I don't know what else, how much better. You can't hit on everybody. You're not going to get them all. A lot of times you're going to miss on more than you get. Clemson's been very stingy with the offers in this class. Matter of fact, they just handed out a new offensive line offer over the weekend. Hardy Watts, 4-star guy out of Massachusetts. So we'll see if they can, get in on him. But they're gonna stay after Sanders and Mason Short's another one, and let those things play. Let both of those recruitments play out before they really start moving on to other guys. And you're right in the thick of it for both of them. If it's close on Thursday against Arizona, then hopefully we don't have to beat the refs during the last 2.5 minutes. I thought that game yesterday was horribly officiated. It was terribly officiated. I thought, man, it was bad. And I've said that too many times this year, man. They got to do something about the officiating. It just gets worse every year, man. You think it's, resigned to this league or that league, man, but it's nationwide. It's bad. At the very least, you should get some consistency. And I thought that game, especially early in the second half yesterday, was totally officiated one-sided. Basketball recruiting, should it improve based on this year's performance? It could. Basketball is a little bit different of an animal than football is, but it absolutely could have an impact with some guys. I think Brownell's got a couple of really good players coming in the next class. One of them is the son of Greg Butner. But more importantly, I think Brownell's been really good about utilizing the portal, and he's going to have to do it after this season again with what's going to be going after the season, because I'm not sure you're getting Chase Hunter back. PJ Hall's gone. Jack Clark's gone. Those are some big pieces you got to replace, and I would and Joe Girard's gone. So I would fully expect Brownell to go out and try to get a couple of scoring guards that can – or guards that can score and play defense and maybe even a little size. But, it's hard to read the future and give you an idea about exactly how much what happens this year will impact recruiting moving forward. It can't hurt. Let's put it that way. Clemson's made some investments in their basketball facilities of late, so that'll always help. But the further we get into this NIL and portal deal, basketball has become more about how you recruit the portal than anything. And for the most part, that's going to always come down to money. Do you think Arizona is a tougher matchup for Clemson than Arizona or Alabama will be? Maybe a little bit, yeah. Yeah, maybe a tad. But they would all three be tough matchups either way. But I think Arizona is probably one of the tougher of the teams left. Arizona is probably one of the tougher matchups just because of some of the size they got and the way their guards can shoot. I feel like Cam has gotten away from using the whole field. He seems to be trying to focus on hitting dingers instead of taking the outside pitch. He just hit an opposite field home run this weekend. So I don't know that I necessarily agree with that too much. He went through a little stretch there where he was struggling a little bit, but I don't know that it's because he's trying to pull everything or yank it out of the park. Just baseball. I think you go through those things sometimes, but I think there was more than one time over this weekend he went opposite field, and one of them was a home run. But if I'm remembering that right, that's a guy. He might be one of the best pure college hitters I've ever seen because he's going to use the entire field, and he's just going to put it in play. He's one of the more impressive hitters I've laid eyes on up here for sure. Want to remind everybody, if you have not hit that subscribe button, please do so, man. I know a lot of you have already subscribed to the channel, but if you've not, we're still trying to build this thing up, and we could use your help. Like the videos, share them, all that good stuff. And if you are one of those folks that like to maybe wager from time to time, we even got a little deal for you.
If you are looking to place your bet for March Madness, the NBA, NHL, MLB, college football, or any other sporting events, go to BetOnline AG and enter the code ACTTV for a 50% welcome bonus up to $1,000. With the earliest lines, biggest bets and fastest payouts, BetOnline AG is the place to go. Don't forget to use the code ACTTV.
So, if you like to place a wager every now and then, betonline.ag, use the code ACTTV. We got you covered, brother. Just saw a post about Hunter Tyson's brother in the portal. I have no idea who they're going to look at yet. They probably got somebody looking at that, but right now, the focus is on the next game. Like I said, they're already in LA, or if they're not still in there, they're already in LA. They left almost right after they got back from Memphis this morning. So, yes, you 100% wear down the pitchers when your batting order is solid, especially when you got a lineup full of guys willing to take walks and work counts, and they just put one quality at bat after another together. That's how they made that comeback Saturday night, man. Just they were patient at the plate. They made the guys throw strikes, and there were a couple of them that couldn't throw strikes, and they took their walks, and they scored some runs that way. And there's no selfishness on that team, man. It's all about the team. There is nobody playing for themselves, and it's a thing of beauty to watch right now, man. It's like a well-oiled machine. the next women's basketball coach? Yes, Sean Poppy will be the next women's basketball coach, from my understanding. Why didn't the team fly straight from Memphis to LA instead of going back to Clemson? Yeah, I can't answer that. I think from what I was told, the decision was made while they were in the air today, actually. And I'm sure nobody was packed to go to LA for another week anyway. So they probably all needed to go make a pit stop, at least make a pit stop in Clemson for a couple hours. I don't know exactly how long they stayed here, but it wasn't very long. They probably got 2, 3, 4 hours of sleep, got up and hit the air. I didn't hear a time exactly when they were going to leave. And if that is it, I will greatly bid you guys adieu, man. I appreciate everybody that tuned in tonight. Recruiting story coming in the morning on the site, allclemsontigers.com. We heard from Antonio Williams today, Avion Terrell. Terrell really talked up Cade Klubnik. Antonio did too, for that matter. Going to have some stuff coming out on that, so keep on the lookout for that. Me and Zach will be right back here on Thursday, 12 p.m. Get you all set for Clemson Sweet 16 match up against Arizona. One of the biggest basketball programs in Clemson history coming up. Until then, see you guys later.